I mean, I first noticed it when you, I'm talking to you, right? Mm-hmm. When you decided to stand in front of the abortion clinics, and started progressing to standing in front of the churches, that I had no doubt it was God's will, because I knew that Todd wouldn't do anything unless God spoke really clearly to him. And I always said he had a one-on-one relationship with God. It was pretty amazing to me way before I developed that relationship. But I knew that was a point in time that was hard. It was like, you're doing God's will, but I don't like it. I don't like it. It's confrontational. It's something that I'm not comfortable with. So that was difficult.
I remember a time when every time I talked to you about something, you always said something like, "Are you talking about me?"
Yeah.
Like, it seemed like everything I was talking about was speaking right to you, even though that wasn't what I was doing.
Yeah, so during the time of us maturing as a couple, maturing as people, I had a lot of past history of things where I wasn't perfect. I didn't feel perfect. I didn't feel like I was doing everything I was supposed to do. So it had to do with a lot of stuff that I hadn't dealt with in the past, and with my background and just things. So yeah, Todd would say, I'm thinking this, I don't know, I don't have an example, but just something that he learned, or something he heard, or something God talked to him about, and it was about Christians in general, pretty much, or people in general. And immediately I felt like he's talking to me. Like he's talking to me, but doesn't want to hurt my feelings, so he's going to say it's about other Christians or about other people. And so he thinks I'm a bad person because I'm not standing in front of the abortion clinic, or I'm not doing this or that. So he must just think I'm nothing. And so that just started building up as well. So when I talk about the walls and stuff, that was just some more bricks on the wall, because nothing Todd was saying, nothing that was bad. It was just I hadn't dealt with knowing that you're not putting me down, that it was you explaining how you're viewing other Christians or other people. But until I went through counseling, until I went through all this time, and God had to work on me, that guess what, none of us are perfect. Like, I had to learn, like, none of us are perfect. Imagine that, but it's true. Like, I didn't really realize, it didn't click, and I remember one time, Todd, and this was even before a lot of this happened, but I'm very, if some of you don't know me that well, I'm very mathematical, I'm very factual, and there's not a lot of gray about me. So with that said, if I hadn't learned it myself, or I don't study it myself, then it's not true. Like, that's my immediate feeling, it's not true. So Todd's learning all this stuff. He's had time to study. He's had time to do all this stuff. So one, you're talking about me and making me feel this little because I feel like you're putting me down. And two, I haven't studied it, so I don't even know if you're telling me the truth. So it was just a bad combination of things. And so I had to learn how to, one, I'm not perfect, and two, you are learning a lot more, and just listen and learn from you.
Once you started feeling those walls build up, how did you try to deal with that separation?
Well, my first response was to run. The walls are getting bigger and bigger, and I'm not going to be able to knock them down, because there's nothing I can do. Todd's going to be Todd. Todd's going to do all this stuff, and I can't be supportive anymore. I don't feel like my opinion matters. I don't feel like, I can't be part of this. And so my first reaction is to run, is to just say, you know what, it's going to be easier. Let me just go start over somewhere else and forget this even happened, right? Which, in the end was not, of course, the right reaction. But that was my first reaction. And until Todd would not be going, he was not going anywhere. and God just kept tapping me, was the moment of time when I said, well, I better work on these walls. I better figure out why these walls are there and how we can get them down. And it wasn't instant, as Todd's aware. It wasn't an instant walls are down once I decided. It was at least 6 months till I fully felt like those walls were down.
So when you first noticed the walls were going up and there was issues, how were you dealing with that? Were you dealing with it by ignoring the differences in the direction I was going, the direction you were going?
I don't think I really realized that the wall was going up as it was going up. So it was more of, I feel this way. I feel like this is the wrong path that Todd's going on. It's not my path. But I am supposed to be the supportive Christian woman, and I'm going to do that. And I don't want to hurt God, and I don't want to, him be mad at me. So I better just listen and do what I'm told, and do what, don't say anything, just be supportive. Let Todd do what he's going to do. But in order to do that, I had to shut off a lot of emotions. I had to shut off a lot of my opinions, because I am a very opinionated person, and I am a very strong woman when it comes to outside of my marriage at that time, because I felt that Todd was here to support my family, to be there for us. Why would I be the one to tell him to stop? And so it was better for me to ignore those feelings, to ignore anything I wanted to tell you, than to deal with it. But like I said, I didn't feel that wall going up. It was a point when the wall was already fully up, is when I shut down and said that I had enough, which was not fair to my family, was not fair to me, was not fair to Todd. I look back and that's just, please, I just say to anybody that as soon as you start seeing one brick going up on the wall, get the brick down. Because as soon as you have lots of bricks up there, it's a lot harder to get down. So
do you remember the types of things I was doing that brought you to the point where you were like, I need to end this relationship? And what was going on in your mind at the time?
Yeah, I don't even remember when. Is it before or after? Did we get kicked out of reality after all of this, or before?
We got kicked out early.
Okay, yeah. So, this was a big one. So the first thought of I need out was when my picture perfect family is going to a church that we love, has a great youth group, has children's ministry, we're involved, we're teaching the kids, and Todd and I are teaching them together, and Todd's doing abolitionist work still on the side, but we still have our church thing going on, and I still had this little wall was going up, but I didn't realize how bad it had got until the day that our church kicked us out of church. So, and that's not, getting kicked out of church wasn't what was really bad. What was really bad is the pastor, assistant pastor, whoever, would actually called Todd and kicked him out of church without even calling to talk to me. Which, in my mind, wasn't against the church, it was against, see Todd, look what you're doing to my family. And then on Facebook, on various social media, I'm seeing stuff about our family. Actual private messages to me telling me how bad of a mom I am because I'm letting my husband do this and dragging my kids through these things. How could I do this? And so that was like one of the times that I felt that I can't do this anymore. And so I think that was one of the areas of I want to go. I can't even recall what the real trigger point was. I just think it was a whole bunch of little trigger points. That one was a huge one of people attacking me for what you were doing across the board. The main trigger points of me saying this is it is when I felt that people were attacking me personally, saying I'm a bad mom, bad wife, bad person because I would let my husband do this. And I felt like I can't deal with this. I have a very stressful job. I'm trying to, raise my daughter, raise my 2 stepsons, which I love as my own, and I can't deal with someone else telling me I'm a bad person. Because again, remember, Steffanie hadn't dealt with what Steffanie needed to deal with, which was, I don't have to be perfect. And you know what? If we're doing God's will, then people are going to hate us. And so I hadn't dealt with any of that. It was all Todd's doing this to me, Todd's doing this to our family, so I'm checked out. I can't handle it. And so it was better for me to go.
There was a point where you were done with the relationship, but you decided to go to counseling. Mm-hmm. What was your thinking of actually going to counseling instead of giving up?
The one thing is that when Todd decided to not, to quit ministry and told me you were going to quit everything and work on this, that was a good thing of, let's go to counseling, let's work on this. And it was a really good Christian counselor that helped us through it, so she understood what was going on, and Steffanie needed some work. It really had nothing to do with Todd. That God was working on Steffanie, and God was going to work on Steffanie through the counselor at that point in time. And so I ended up having individual counseling appointments more than couple counseling appointments, even though we were supposed to be going to couple counseling. But I needed to learn how, or to understand that God gave me, as a woman, as a wife, the ability to speak my opinion, to read God's word, to maybe understand it differently than my husband, or understand things differently, but be okay that we could talk about it, and that we are in this together, and that God's going to be with us together. I had to learn that it was okay if we disagreed, that it was okay if we decided that Todd was going to go do something and I wasn't comfortable with, that it was okay. As long as we agreed that, you know what, I don't really want to go wherever, the corner, and hold graphic signs because I'm just not ready. That was okay. That it wasn't I was a bad person. It wasn't that I failed. It's because I wasn't ready. And I had to learn that I wasn't a bad person. That it just, God hadn't got me there yet. And he was working on me. And so that's what I learned most out of counseling, was that it was okay. That what I was feeling was okay,
So starting from the beginning again, what were the feelings that you had? We start evangelism, the mm-hmm. feelings that come all the way up to the point of it's over, to the feelings of counseling all the way up to today.
So I guess at the beginning, when Todd and I decided to follow what God had planned for us, and go to church, I had a feeling of excitement and looking forward to the future, and God has great plans for us, and just in love with life, Scroll forward a couple years or so, don't even know the time frame, and evangelism starts. Todd's going to evangelistic boot camp, and I'm thinking, oh, this is good. This is really good, actually, because I'm going to have a strong Christian man leading my family. My father was not a Christian. I was not around Christians in my whole family. I just happened to go to church because my grandmother brings me, and thank goodness she did, because she got that seed. But, I came from a very liberal background, very like open to anything. So this was very different, but I knew I wanted to have a Christian home. And so I was thrilled to hear that Todd wanted to do all this stuff. Was I scared? So I was scared at that point. I was a little scared. I was thinking, I'm not sure. Again, here I go. Don't make me a pastor's wife. I know what stigma's on that, and I don't want to be that. So, plus here I am, the tattooed lady, with colored hair. I can't be a pastor's wife. Like, it just was a little freaky. And so as he started going there, I started to feel a little bit of uneasiness, but that I also had this other side of me that was, I do want a Christian home, and so this is good. All right, I'm gonna roll with it, So some years go on by, and that's when he didn't know he was an abolitionist, but he thought I was a pro-lifer, going out, standing for the unborn. That was kind of that time. I was like, oh, okay, And to be honest, I used to be a pro-choicer. So until Todd and I talked about it way before he was standing in front of abortion clinics, but that we talked, and I understood what it was. It was murder. And so, it totally switched my thinking. But now I have a husband that's standing out in front of abortion clinics, standing in front of churches. So that made me, so I went from excited to nervous to, this is turning into a little bit more than I had thought it would be. So a lot of anxiety, a lot of pressure was going on in me. A couple more years down the road, more bitterness, anger, that this is not where I was hoping my life would end me at. Anger at, I felt that Todd's number one priority was abolitionism. Wasn't my feelings, wasn't my family's feelings, even though that was completely false. It was just because I didn't offer it up. It wasn't his priority. But I did feel a lot of bitterness and anger. And that bitterness and anger took over any kind of blessings that were happening, because we were still being blessed. Even though my feeling of bitterness and angerness was going on, we were still being blessed. But that took over my life. And that point right then was, I don't want to be angry and bitter anymore, so I'll just shut it off. If I shut it off, I can go back to being happy. I can go back to being where I was at. So I shut that off, the anger and bitterness. But instead of it switching to happy, because guess what? God's like, I'm not letting you go that easy. You can't just shut it off and I'm going to let you go fly away, little birdie, and be perfect. That's not what he had planned. What he had planned was us to work it out. And so for the next year was very painful. So I went from anger, bitterness to very, very painful. And it wasn't painful from what you would expect. It was painful because I knew I had a lot of work. And every day was tears. Every day was working on Steffanie. And that's painful. That's something that no individual wants to turn around and say, it's you. It was very painful and just eye-opening, right, for me. And then it was feelings of awakening. As I saw our marriage tightening more, talking about things more, it started to become a lot more awakening. I started feeling more alive, more connected with Todd, because he understood that I had work to do and that I was working through this. And so it built our relationship up together. And so I just started feeling a lot more happier. Was I ecstatic? Was I so happy that Todd's standing out with graphic pictures and people hate us? No, I wasn't. But I knew that I could talk to him about it, and that was the number one priority for me at that time, that I was okay to talk to him about it and to study it, and to, when I felt I was ready, he was there with open arms, right? And so it gave me a window of feelings. It was like I had to learn myself. And so as the years went on, I studied. I've read the AHA site from front to bottom and up and down, and read every pamphlet, and so that's given me a way of trying to understand it. Going back to the Steffanie that I know, I have to study it to know it. And so once I studied it, then I understood where I was at, and I had clarity. I had, it just opened my heart up. And so the feelings now, today, where we are today, is joy, is comfort, there's peace, because I know that Todd, due to his work, due to his time commitments, he can be out there. And it's okay, I don't have to feel guilty about it because I'm raising a family. And so that gives me joy and peace that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So you go from someone who, think again, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, thought I was at peace and joy, right? I was in my church, I was happy, I was with my family, and I'm teaching Sunday school, to go into painful anger, bitterness, to joy and peace again. Wasn't an easy road, and we are so many we're different people than 10 plus years ago, but all through that, the only way I could have got through with it is just talking to God and relying on Him, saying, I can't do this alone. I can't. I got to do what's right and do whatever you said here, because I can't do it. So.
How did you come about actually embracing abolitionism?
When I truly said, new start, Lord, what do you have for me? What is going to happen? And amazingly enough, little do we know, we were only living 2 hours from Russ and Toby and them, and being able to build relationship with them. And so hanging out with their wives, hanging out with just the whole abolitionist society, and seeing what everyone's about, and just watching from the sidelines, is where I really started learning about it and embracing it. I had to be in it. I had to be part of it. I had to see that it's not these crazy people. It's not these people that are out to get everyone. That it truly is following God and is all Christ-centered, and that people that love God. And that's where God led us. And that's where I think I said, let's do it, and I'm behind it. Yeah, the most important thing is if you're struggling, if you feel like you don't understand it, or that you're not sure if this is the right thing, but I'm going to support anyways, all those feelings are good feelings. They're not wrong feelings, but make them known to your spouse. Make sure they know where you're at and where you stand. What does it mean to them when they say they really support you? Does that mean they don't really believe it, they're just going to let you go? Or does that mean like, yeah, I'm really behind you, I'm not there yet? It's two different things. And I feel like any couple just really needs to communicate with one another about this, because it is, we're all aware. It's a huge difference in society. Like, it's a different, doing Christ's work like this, unfortunately, is different. It's not like a normal Christian, you would think, and grow up in the church. So I just really feel that the spouse that is an abolitionist should really just keep their eye out open for the other half. Make sure you watch their feelings, what they say. Does it really mean that they're okay with it? If they are not okay with it, I suggest that abolitionists should stop for a little while until you work that out. That's the suggestion. And most likely, God's in control. You'll be right back out there pretty soon. So.
wifey and a kid, I gotta step it up, but I can't step it up. My flesh is wrecking stuff. I need the strength of the Lord to come and rev me up. He got me serving my family, leading them in the worship, patiently preaching with passion, pleased to be in his service. Yeah, I'm weak as a servant, yet I seem to be working under the power of his name. His strength is emerging, not nervous. He gives me boldness when I grip the mic. Spitting Christ, committed, willing to give my life. Like you see me walking in the steps of Jesus, explaining God to the world. We count that exegesis. Say come my way, but it isn't gonna get it right. Twist it up now. I'm a temple of the Lord, picking up my soul, giving up the riches for the props, and I'm getting that crown. Living for the risen and pretending I'm down. Not the prison of my sin and not the spirit of faith. Not a victim